Welcome to my first ever tier list. Today we're going to be checking out all of the heirlooms in Apex Legends. We have a lot of different options, all the way from S to F. So we'll see where which ones end up. And I have a lot of these heirlooms, so I have a lot of experience with them. And only about 2 that I'm missing. So without further ado, let's just get into it. So first things first, Wraith. Let's just start from earliest to latest. Now, Wraith's heirloom is really clean, right? However, it is the very first heirloom. So what does that mean? Well, that means that there were not a lot of animations, there were not a lot of different like Easter eggs and things that they do now with the current heirlooms they didn't do before. So with Wraith, she only has one inspect and she basically just looks at the knife and that's about it. However, the knife itself is just so incredibly clean. You just can't deny it. It glows. It's a kunai. Who doesn't love a kunai? It's just so cool. Her spam inspect is what makes this heirloom so neat. So fun to have. And just like her just spinning it. That's just so satisfying. So it's kind of like a 50-50 where the heirloom is so cool, but it doesn't really have too many like things that she can do with it. So I know people are not gonna really like this, but I'm gonna put this in A tier, not necessarily S tier. I'll put it at A tier just because I can't look past the fact that it only has one animation per thing. So I'm putting it at A tier. The next legend to get an heirloom was Bloodhound. So Bloodhound, honestly, this heirloom is once again super clean. The animations are really nice as well. The spam inspect is also pretty great. It looks kind of funky, but you get the idea. Still looks pretty good. The heirloom itself, once again, is just very visually pleasing. It actually radiates and glows red, so that's like really cool. It glows in the dark. It's very fitting to Bloodhound and Bloodhound's lore. Although we didn't get that video until a little later to explain it, it still fit the character. So the draw animation is actually super sick. That literally never gets old. And also the inspect it's pretty okay, pretty okay. It's actually very touching. The little raven on the back of the axe is really nice. But all in all, yeah, I mean, it's just such a clean heirloom. You can't really go wrong with it. It's a weapon, and it's just sick. So I want to go ahead and put that also in A tier because, once again, it's an early heirloom, and it doesn't really have too many animations to it, but that doesn't make it not amazing. Next up, we have a Lifeline. So Lifelines is very creative, in my opinion. Very creative. You see with Lifeline right off the bat that she was always into that groove. She was always into music, and she's always like using her little like actual drumsticks on Doc's head before she had the heirloom, and she always was just about that groove. Like her idle animation is literally her like dancing. Like it's like she has drumsticks in her hand, like imaginary drumsticks. So this is just so fitting for Lifeline, and it just makes perfect sense. So they gave her these shock sticks like as drumsticks, but they're also a weapon at the same time. So it's just literally the perfect heirloom for Lifeline. Once again, it was a very early heirloom, so it doesn't have too many animations, but the animations are sick. The spam inspect is super nice. She just kind of spins it, like kind of flips it over and over again. This is very satisfying. Her inspect animation, like the full-on animation, is pretty cool. She just continues to spin it, and you see it glow in the dark, and like it's just so sick. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Lifelines at A tier because just the animations, the heirloom itself, the draw animation where like the sticks kind of emerge out of each other. It's just so cool. So we're putting Lifeline in A tier as well. Moving on to Pathfinder. In my opinion, this to me is the worst heirloom in the game. I'm putting this at F tier. Well, let me explain why. Now, I love Pathfinder, don't get me wrong. Number one, this thing just obstructs your screen. Barely can see the screen. He's running like this with it, so you can't even see. 2, it's loud, obnoxious. Every time you sprint, it's distracting. It just doesn't really help, and it's just not all that cool. He doesn't really have a spam inspect at all. Once again, it's an early heirloom as well, so he doesn't have a lot of different aspects to it. He has one inspect, one draw animation. You know, it's an early heirloom, like I said before. And all in all, it's just not that great. His inspect is super, super long. It's funny. It's funny. It's very, very Pathfinder, very fitting. But speaking of fitting, we didn't even get the reason or the lore behind why Pathfinder even has these boxing gloves to begin with until way later in season 7. It was almost like they brought out this heirloom, slapped it on him, and then like 6 seasons later said, okay, let's make this make sense. Let's make up something to, like, you know, give this some reason to why he has the heirloom that he has. It was so delayed. So I know that doesn't have to do with the actual heirloom, but to me that's just something that I've noticed, that it was just super delayed on why he has these boxing gloves. So I'm putting it at the bottom. It's just not that great of an heirloom. It's very distracting, and literally everyone that I know that has this heirloom purposely just turns it off. So I'm gonna go ahead and put Pathfinders at F tier. Moving on to Octane. Now, Octane's heirloom, right off the bat, super cool looking, very, very fitting to Octane. However, this thing just has some really weird and broken, unfinished looking animations. Have you ever tried to spam inspect with Octane's heirloom? It looks ridiculous. And it really upsets me because this heirloom, a butterfly knife, that could be one of the best spam inspects in the game. It's a butterfly knife. Like, I mean, you do all kinds of tricks and stuff with that, and that is what we get? That broken animation? I don't understand that. And also, I'm not sure if it has to do with Octane's stem or the heirloom itself, but there's also bugs that occur with this heirloom. You know, and I don't necessarily know if it is because of the heirloom. If it is or it isn't, either way, the animations just look weird sometimes. Very, very weird. You know, sometimes it's like not even in his hand. It's just weird, you know? It's an heirloom that kind of got ruined because of the bad animation job. Besides that, I mean, the heirloom looks very, very cool, looks very pleasing, very creative with the stem inside of the knife and the needle poking out. The inspect is incredibly long, but cool. And yeah, once again, very early heirloom, so it didn't really have too many animations, Easter eggs, or anything like that. Very, very one-sided, very, very simple. But, you know, it's still a clean heirloom, but because of all the wacky, just broken animations, I gotta put this thing in C tier. Because it's just, if they could just go back and fix that up, I'd put it back up to A, but this thing is just not great. They need to work on it. Maybe I'll put it in B tier instead, because, you know, it is a really good heirloom. It just has, like, mechanical problems. Moving on to Mirage. Now, before we clown his heirloom, I do have to give Mirage points. Mirage was the first character where Respawn started to step up and evolve when it came to heirlooms. So Mirage got the first heirloom that actually had more than one animation. It had more than one inspect. So you'd inspect it and, you know, he'd do one thing, you'd inspect it again, he'd do something different. And that was kind of a game changer for heirlooms, because we know all the ones previous only had one. They had one animation per thing. So he had multiple draw animations, he had multiple inspects, and they just stepped it up when it came to heirlooms as a whole. But he was the first one to sort of represent that. So I just want to give him that credit before I, you know, judge the heirloom. But anyways, I do have to say, even though this heirloom is extremely fitting for Mirage, I have to put it at like a D tier, because it's just, it really threw everybody off when this heirloom came out, because we were so used to weapons, and then this comes out. It's a trophy. Now it fits Mirage, but it's not a melee weapon. It's not in like what we thought they were gonna stick with. So definitely not the greatest. I know people don't like this at all, but you know, I do like how there is a spam inspect at least. At least you can just spin it, you know, at least there's that. So there's certain aspects about this heirloom that I appreciate, and that's why I'm not gonna put it at the bottom. I'm gonna give it some points and put it at D tier. Moving on to the Season 6 heirloom, which was Caustic. Now, personally, I think this is one of the coolest heirlooms in the game. It's just so creative once again. I mean, you have the Caustic's face on the front of the sledgehammer. You have the gas chamber that he reloads. You know, it emits gas when you hit people with it. It's satisfying to bonk people with this thing. It has like a little trigger on the back of it. It's just like so expertly done, you know? And once again, we're at the point where these are the newer heirlooms. So we have a lot of different inspects, a lot of different animations, a lot of different draw animations, and a lot of different Easter eggs. So we have like a spider on the top of it. You have the, what else? You have the coffee mug. You have the glowing eyes on the edge of it. Like, I mean, just all these different things just make this heirloom so cool, as if it wasn't already cool enough. So I'm gonna put this thing at S tier, honestly. Also, the spam inspect is nice too. He spins it. So once again, Caustic heirloom, S tier for me. Season 7 was Gibraltar. Now Gibraltar, same deal, man. I mean, his heirloom was, people looked at it when it first came out and were like, eh. But when I found out that it was like emitting fire, like it's the thing's actually on fire, that set it off. That thing is so cool. It's very fitting for Gibraltar. We got lore behind this right away, so like we knew where he got it from, why he got it. You know, unlike Pathfinder, this thing is just cool, man. It's just cool. The spam inspect is nice. The like, it's so satisfying to hit people with it, and like the like molten lava that rolls off of it is super sick. And one of the coolest things about this is the inspect, where he picks up his shield, or his arm shield rather, and he shows it off to you, but it depends on which skin that you have on, where you can see the different arm shield. So that was just such a neat little thing to add in there, and they did not have to do that, but they did. And that just makes this heirloom so cool. Honestly, there's not a bad thing I can say about this heirloom. Besides maybe, you know, if you're trying to rat in a corner, it does glow in the dark. So, and it can be pretty loud. So those are, you know, some little minor things, but you know, I'm gonna put that to the side, and I'm putting this in S tier once again, because this thing is just so cool. It's just one of the newer heirlooms, so there's a lot more to it. Moving on to season 8, we got Bangalore's heirloom. Now this is a kukri, I believe. Once again, we got lore on this heirloom right away. Like, we actually know where she got it and how she got it. She stole it from a pilot, so it was actually a pilot's knife from Titanfall, which is like a super cool way to start it off. But anyways, this thing is just so clean. It's just so clean. You know, you can't really go wrong with that. It's so satisfying. It's almost like ASMR when she actually takes the thing out to sharpen the knife. It's like so it's so pleasing to the ears. And you know, it really fits Bangalore. No crazy Easter eggs on this one, nothing too crazy. Pretty simple, all things considered, but very satisfying. The spam inspect is satisfying as well. It's not all that crazy. It's not like Wraith's kunai, but hey, you know, it's just clean. It's a clean heirloom, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and put it either in B tier or A tier. Like, you just can't really go wrong with this thing. And I'll think about it. You know what? I'm gonna put it in A tier actually. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in A tier because you just can't go wrong with this thing. You know, it's just cool. A lot of different animations, and the sheath too. That's one thing to not go without mentioning. Moving on to season 9. Season 9 was Revenant, man. This heirloom to me is also one of the coolest ones in the game. I mean, it fits Revenant so well, and you know, there's like this like voodoo magic to it, like the way he draws it, like the way he picks it up. It's just like, it's magnificent, honestly. Like, this thing is just ridiculous. It's so sick. You know, it's actually huge. It's easily the biggest heirloom in the game for sure. And you know, the way it works, like the thing that spins and the thing kind of like comes apart and then it reforms back together, it's just so immaculate is the word. This heirloom to me gets an S rank. The spam inspect is pretty nice. He just kind of like spins it or flips it. It's just nice. The inspects are really cool. Very satisfying. It glows in the dark. Also, not to mention too, the third person melee is insane. The melee itself is insane with like the effects that it has, but when you melee and you see Revenant in third person, he's spinning, he's doing a 360, he's doing like flips and all this. He looks like a maniac with this thing. So easily for me, it's an S tier for sure. Moving on to season 10, we got Rampart's Heirloom. Now, in my opinion, at least this thing is a melee weapon in a sense. You know, I do have to give it points. It does have a pretty good spam inspect. You can actually spin it. But at the end of the day, you know, this thing really is just a wrench. You know, it's modded a little bit. It has bubblegum at the bottom, which is funny. It has like these little lights on it with a Rampart symbol. It fits Rampart really well. Rampart's very funny with the heirloom. But all in all, I mean, this thing really is just a wrench. It's just a wrench. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this at E tier, right below Mirage, because a trophy looks a little more pleasing than just a wrench. You know, at the end of the day, that thing is literally just a wrench. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in E tier. And last and probably least, we have Wattson's Heirloom for season 11. Now, a lot of people saw this heirloom in the beginning and they didn't like it. A lot of us see the heirloom now and we still don't like it. Even Wattson mains don't like it. However, it has started to grow on a few people because of the animations and just how like cute it is and how it fits Wattson, and of course the Nessie plushie animation. But in my opinion, I gotta say, I really don't like this thing. I really don't like it. You know, I guess in a way it fits Wattson, and I do love the Nessie animations, of course, but I really don't like this thing. You know, now I'm not gonna put it next to Pathfinder because that's just horror to me. But I'm probably gonna put this in the same boat as Mirage, where, you know, it's something that is just like, it fits the character, but I just don't like the actual heirloom. You know, it's very bulky and kind of big, and like it has a spam inspect that's pretty cool, but the thing is so big, it just looks like you're just flipping some like weird contraption. And yeah, I just gotta say, I just don't like it. I just don't like it, and I don't think it'll grow on me. I think that's just final. The way I think about it is, if I was a Wattson main, would I like that heirloom? And the answer is no. If I was a Wattson main, would I be happy with that heirloom? No, I would not be happy with that. So that's how I think about these heirlooms. That's what I think about all these heirlooms. Once again, a really cool thing in the game. Like, you know, I know it's expensive, but a really cool thing in the game. Really neat, really cool for all the characters. I like how it fits the characters. That was my heirloom tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you guys think about my choices in the comments, if you agree or disagree. I'm pretty sure no one's gonna agree with me on this because there's just certain things that people wouldn't put in certain places. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. I'll be doing more tier lists, maybe like the characters and like certain game types and whatnot. But for now, until next time, I will catch you guys in the next one.